The late summer walleye migration triggers one of the year's most overlooked bites. Up next, Jon explains how to tap into the action on a lake near you.
There's one already, look at that. I'm just getting everything set up, trying to get everything lined up. Put that rod out, turned around, and it's already been bit. We're into late summer now. What's happening is these fish that were out in the basin not too long ago, out on mid-lake structure, they're starting their move. And that move starts as soon as it starts cooling off at night. And that's what it's been doing. It's been getting cool at night now. And these fish are starting to head back to where we were catching them in the early summer, late spring. Great walleye to start, look at that. What's going on now is the nights are getting cooler. We're getting more and more and more of these nights where you wake up in the morning and it's been downright cold. Look at that, awesome walleye to start. Let's hope that's a sign of how the day is gonna be. But when I say cold, I'm talking we're starting to see some of those 50-degree nights. But what happens is so quickly the water temp starts coming down. We're already down to 71 degrees on water temp. Just a couple weeks ago, we were in the high 70s. So what's happening now is these water temps start changing and these fish start moving. And they start moving back to where they're gonna end up in the fall. So a lot of times, you know, driving out here this morning, I came all the way across this lake and I saw a lot of guys fishing out deep. I set up in here on this mid-range stuff and boom, we got one right away. What's gonna happen is these fish, when they get here, they begin to get aggressive. And that's why at this time of the year, I start that move back into shallower water. And I'm not talking huge shallow, I'm talking that mid-range stuff. Anything from 20 to 28 feet, somewhere in that neighborhood. That area where these fish come out of that 35, 40 feet of water and move their way up. And you know what? If you can be the first one to this party, you can catch a whole ton of fish. There's nobody really fishing around me here. Everybody's out deep. And there's a lot of fish in this neighborhood right now. There's one right there. Look at that. Can't barely get a drink of coffee this morning. That's cool. Spots I'm looking for. You know, as much as I was looking earlier in the year, let's see here. Get this boat turned just a little bit so that it rides a little easier in the waves coming through here with this fish. Earlier in the year when I was looking for those mid-range spots that were the first ones off of shore, now here's what I'm looking for. When I'm looking for these fish on their first move, I'm looking for these mid-range spots that are the last one from shore. The first ones coming out of deep water, headed back into that shoreline. They could be gravel bars, they could be rock piles, could be long points. But I'm looking for the last ones from shore, which are the first ones coming in. So it's basically just working your way backwards from what you were doing in the spring. But what's really cool is that this happens on every single lake. And this might be the most overlooked deal there is, because you can put yourself in a position where fish like this, when they get here, the migration is done now for a little bit and they start eating right away. And that's what we got going here. I mean, these fish I'm catching this morning, they're eating. I mean, there's no doubt about it. These fish, they're eating and they're all good ones. I mean, these are awesome walleyes here. Oh, he got himself unhooked. Look at that. Perfect. But what happens is when these fish get here, they start eating. Now, they might not be eating while they're on that transition coming in here, And they might have slowed down their feeding pattern out there, but once they get here, man, they just fire off eating. They're no longer so scattered. Remember, it's not that long ago that these fish were all scattered out there in deep water. When they start coming back in to these areas, they get themselves congregated again. Once they get themselves congregated again, you can see them on your sonar, and boom, you see them, you can catch them, because now they're in that spot where they're gonna start eating again, and they're all together, they're easy to find. You get to create that competition when you got fish eating together, which helps you get more fish. I mean, I'm fishing one line here. I mean, this is crazy how fast this is happening, but here's the thing. You're creating that competition, but you're fishing an area where those fish have reconcentrated. But when remember back in May and June when those fish were all congregated and it seemed easy, then it got tough for the middle of summer, or a little bit tougher. Now you're back to that same time frame, you're just fishing a little bit different. That's great. Let's get this thing back in, and here we go. That's awesome. There's one right there. Yep. Look at that. That feels like a pretty good fish too. I'll slow down just a little bit, just because of the angle I'm running here. I don't want to put myself in a position here of pulling too hard on this fish. That's one thing I'll say about doing this in the wind, is you just got to remember that there's a lot of variables coming into play here as far as the speed at which you're moving that fish. There's the speed of the boat because of the trolling motors. There's the speed of the boat surging because of the waves. And then there's you bringing the fish. And really a slow, steady approach is far better, but I don't ever want to bring the boat to a stop. There he is, good eye. Really nice fish. Really good fish. All right. Ooh. He swam and got down on me a little bit. You know, when you get them on the surface, you hate to let them get back down, because that's when you can lose them too. But I think we're okay here. I mean, we're right here now. Come here, back hook, oh boy. Got him. Look at that, unhooked in the net that fast. I knew that was gonna be close. Got a little bit lucky there. Look at that, another great fish. Man, this is a cool bite. When you can get on something like this, I mean, you can sit here all alone, just like we're doing, catching these fish. This is cool. Let me show you what I'm using, because it's a big deal at this time of the year. This is the time of the year where a lot of times I'm switched over to stick baits. And I'm switched over to stick baits now because the walleyes have switched over and they're eating differently, okay? They're eating bigger baits. Sometimes it might be tullibees, they're a longer profile. It might be just bigger baits in general, Cisco's, whatever it may be, but they're off of those small minnows and they're into bigger stuff. That Rogue is an awesome bait for this because it's got length, it's got a great tight little wobble, it's got some size, and listen to this. It's got a great high pitch rattle. Walleyes love that high pitch rattle. You know, for years, Rogues have been one of my favorite baits. I mean, flat out, I don't hide from it. I've made a lot of money tournament fishing with Rogues and guiding with Rogues. These are an awesome, awesome bait. And if you're not pulling them, especially when you get to the midsummer time period or into this early fall, late summer time period, you're missing fish, because these baits are just phenomenal. Now, these Rogues come in various models. You can get them in a Rattling Rogue version, which is a 2 to 4 foot diver, okay? A tiny, tiny little lip. Today I'm fishing the suspending version. It's gonna dive just a little harder, but the thing you're gonna get is you're gonna get a little bit more wobble when you go to that suspender. Either one of them are great. Just awesome baits on lead core. They're awesome baits at this time of the year. Man, and it's hard to beat Fire Tiger, right? A lot of great colors, but man, I'll tell you, these fish are keyed in on this morning. There's no doubt about it. That's awesome. There's fish right there. Look at that. Yeah, it feels like a pretty good fish too. Being in the right areas That's the big thing, you know. I mean, yeah, you got to get the right lures down there, and you got to get that dialed in. You got to get your speed dialed in. But being in areas where these fish are getting to, and when they get there, being willing to feed there, that's the big deal. And that's what we're on right now. I mean, it's as simple as that. These fish are all just getting here, coming off that mid-lake basin stuff. And the more of them that get here, the better the bite will be. Not just because of the numbers here, but because of the competition created as well. There's a lot of fish on the graph, and I mean, we're coming over them nonstop, and you know, it's been a fun morning of fishing, and we've been able to make these walleyes bite all morning. Look at that. That's awesome. Unhooked right there. This one's gonna be really easy to wrap up. Look at this. Get that guy out of there without getting hooked. What an awesome fish. Man, get out and do this. Anticipate this move. When they make this late summer migration, if you can anticipate that move and be in the right spot, you can do that. That's awesome right there. That's fun fishing. Get out of here, buddy.